Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're checking out a brand new song from ADO called Mirror. So let's just jump in. I'm excited about this. Let's hit play in 3, 2, 1, play. Okay, I like the bass. Okay. Nice. Okay, I like the effect we're going on for the vocal. It's it's a very soft effect that's leaning a lot more to a clean vocal, but it complements that bass really well. Nice. Those are nice layered vocals there. Okay. Ooh. Okay. I was not expecting that because we're having this like supporting vocal pushing way above where we were on the main vocal there, but it's very laid back. It's a very soft spoken almost. Okay, interesting percussive introduction there. Okay, we're leaning more into that keyboard feel. Fade out, depression, layered vocal. Okay. We're gonna have another... No, okay. I was wondering, because we were building up a little bit there. I was wondering if we were going to go into suppression again, or if we were going to have another segment. And we did go into another segment. Okay. I like that higher vocal on the support. I think we're missing a little bit more of that projection, which I get that we're having more of that laid back sort of aesthetic to the vocals here, but I do really like having that more intense projection from ADO, because I feel like that's how she kind of adds energy to her songs. The instrumentation is obviously doing an incredible job as well, but I really think that having that higher vocal there really lends to the overall mix. Nice. Nice lift. She's going high on that supporting vocal. Nice lift. Get breathier. Are we ending? No. Okay. Okay. No. Nice. I'm surprised they cut off the sustain there. I'm surprised they cut off the sustain. They're probably gonna go for another longer sustain because they cut that one off short. But I do think they could have gone longer for that one. Nice. Breathier there. Nice. I really like that higher supporting vocal. Okay. Layering over it. Nice. Okay. bass. We're probably gonna close out here. Okay, that was a Mirror from ADO. All right, I really like this. I do think that I think just one more segment should have been added to the song. And this is already a pretty short song. It's pretty much 3 minutes. I think there should have been one more segment. Maybe between like the first and second chorus. Just something to add like a buffer. Though obviously we did have, you know, but I don't think it would have been harmful to add a little bit more, just another variation, to at least reference melodically. So even though we do lean into that catchiness, I don't think it would have been hurtful to add this counter melody to kind of like, because we're very kind of droning on that chorus, right? We're going mirror, mirror, dance on mirror. It's a very, very repetitive, but there's not a whole lot of variation in that catchy aspect of it. Though we did have a very vast range, especially with those supporting vocals, and even the main vocal had a pretty big range throughout the entirety of the song. But I think having another counter melody to latch onto, just like an additional one, would be helpful to adding to kind of helping the song feel a little more varied, even though we did have a lot of variation in the vocal tracks, but mainly for that catchiness, that catchy chorus, having like a counter melody to reference, and we did have some, but having just one additional one would definitely lend itself to I think a more balanced mix overall. But this was still super, super awesome. I'm actually gonna go back and let's go back one more time and just listen to some parts that's out. Okay, so here we can hear this snapping, which we actually end on, and that's kind of how we close out. We have that same bass and that snapping percussive. Yeah, so here we don't actually have any. I don't think we really branch out aside from these instruments here. Like this instrumentation doesn't really vary too much from what I remember. We did have that one digital percussive that we have, I believe, after the first chorus. But other than that, this is pretty much our instrumentation. I don't think it would have been harmful if we added in some like brass or something. Yeah, this is really nice. I like how she like shifts the demeanor of her voice as she's going on, which could also be like as she loses breath a little bit. But I think from what I've heard of ADO, this is not close to what it takes to lose breath for ADO. So she's definitely like changing her demeanor there as she goes on. Like here you can hear she's very like breathy and she's expelling extra air, and then as she goes forward she like closes up and gets more into her chest. Nice, and I like how she's having that juxtaposition where she goes very open and then like closed off, almost nasal there. Right, so this is an interesting chorus to me. I feel like it's less about the composition and more about the, well, I suppose that's unfair, but what I was gonna say is that's less about the composition and more about the mix of how it's mixed there. But still, I do think it's definitely how those like vocal tracks blend together that is what makes it stand out there. The chorus itself is very simple. I do like that we have those either like a synth or a keyboard, those like treble little pulses in the back. I do think that actually adds a surprising amount to how keeping it pretty much balanced, because we have a lot of bass here, and then it doesn't really feel too intense, but having those little pulses keeps it fresh. It doesn't make it painful to drone on. It makes it more of just like a bounce, a catchiness to it. Nice. Like here, this part is kind of like our counter melody, right? To the mirror, mirror. Like it's sort of playing that back and forth. But I think having at least like one more, just at least for that last chorus. I think before I had said having like a segment after this first chorus and then referencing it as a counter melody. I think that would have been actually a great choice, especially for like a 3-minute song like this, having that first chorus and have a segment after that, and then use that that like verses melody as like a counter melody in the last chorus. I think that would have been a really, really nice compositional play to add more to just the fullness of the composition. But obviously that's not necessarily a negative on the song. That's just kind of like, when I hear it, that's what I think of as like a way to make the song more suited to what my preference would be. But I still like the song. I still think it did an awesome job. Nice. Yeah, right here, this is the percussive I was talking about earlier that they introduced. Nice. They should have more of those bass fills. I actually really like how that bass filled in there. And it was over the digital percussion, actually. Nice. I don't think we're changing the you know, those treble pulses back in the quieter part of the mix. It's not too quiet, actually. I think it's louder than some of those supporting vocals, but it's definitely on more of the subtle side of instrumentation. And I think I'm not sure, but I think they might be playing a different melody on this. But I can't do it with my voice, so it's like bum 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 bum. Nice. I love her lips. Nice. I like this cutout as well. I think they should have had more of those like just more of that, I think, over this like isolated bass and percussion. That would have actually been excellent, I think, as just leaning more into that, because we have it it's very full on that chorus. The mix is very full, so having more of those like empty isolated parts, I think, in between would add this other step of duality in the segments of the song. So I think that would have been also another thing, another compositional choice that I would have preferred. But it's not necessarily like, I don't want this to sound as like a criticism of the song. It's just kind of like, I've heard the song, and then this is kind of like how I feel would have changed it better to my preference. Yeah, I love leaning into this. See, I actually think that was... I think it would have been better if we reverse those. Instead of having the suppressed vocal and then the clean vocal and then going into that chorus, I think it would have been better to have the open vocal, then end with the suppression, or just cut out the suppression. Because the suppression there, when you're isolated with the vocal and just that, bass and percussion, there isn't really too much reason to suppress those vocals, because they're spotlighted. It's kind of like a conflict of interest, right? But you're suppressing them to highlight what comes after, usually, right? So having that suppression, and then right after that, you just have the same thing clean, and then right after that, you go into your chorus. I think would be better to highlight that following chorus by having the suppression at the very end, or just have the segment be that introductory step that leads you into the chorus. I think that would have been a better choice. I love her control of her voice though. Her voice is so pleasant to listen to. This needed to be longer. I think it was criminal to cut that sustain short. That should not be cut short like that. I think it should definitely be going on through this chorus. Like it's just, it feels like a missed opportunity to me. Like it just cuts off there. It should not cut off. Nice. I love this part. I love that part. That part is, it's something that I've mentioned quite a lot recently. Just adding progression, especially to your last chorus of the song, it helps so much. And it's something a lot of compositions do, but when a composition doesn't do it, it's to me, I find it's kind of like removing the bass from a metal song. It's like a lot of times most people who listen to it don't necessarily pick out the bass and like mention the bass when they think of the song, but when you cut out the bass, you realize it's missing. It's kind of like that same aspect, that same comparison to song composition. It's like when you have that progression, especially for the last chorus, or just some kind of dynamic progression across your choruses, you may not necessarily like point it out or notice it when it happens. You might just kind of be like going with the flow of the song, but when it's cut out, it can definitely make a greater mark. Ironically, when it's cut out, it can kind of feel too droning or too repetitive on a song, which is like if you listen to a lot of like old pop songs, you might notice that there's not a whole lot of progression, especially towards like the last chorus, and that makes it very repetitive or annoying to listen to, especially as you listen to it like more than once. Nice. I love this. Her voice sounds amazing here. And I really like having that higher vocal in the mix. That higher vocal actually really blends everything together super well. Nice. Alright. I like the song. I really like this. I don't want all my little compositional like preferences and stuff to sound like nitpicks or criticisms. They're not. I'm just kind of mentioning that because I think I think it's something that a lot of people like may hear and they might notice, but they might not necessarily know how to put it into words. And it's more of like a preference thing, really. It's just kind of like what floats your boat, right? So these aren't criticisms, and I don't think the song would necessarily be better if those things I mentioned happened. But it would better suit like what I like to hear. And that's what this channel's about, right? I'm just kind of analyzing songs and talking about what I would like to hear. So yeah, this was really, really fun. Thank you very much for recommending this to me. And as always, feel free to recommend more things for me to check out in the comments below. Aside from that, I will see you all next time. Thank you so much.